Here we go with the final instalment of The Stepfather. It's Stepfather 3 and the main actor Terry O'Quinn hasn't come back for this one. I wonder how they're going to deal with that. Is this him? Are they going to make him walk around with his hood up for 90 minutes? This hooded figure has arrived at this black market medical centre, and the guy here, the doctor, is smoking in the operating room. Right, so it turns out the guy in the hood is the stepfather, and the doctor is performing facial reconstructive surgery on him, so he'll be totally unrecognisable.
You're gonna look like a new man.
I'm not sure what to call the stepfather yet because he hasn't picked a name out, but looks like he's chosen a destination, Deerview, California. He's fully healed now, so he kills the doctor. So here we are in Deerview, and let's not mess about, this is him now. He's going by the name Keith Grant. He's a gardener, and he's dressed up as the Easter Bunny to hand out candy to kids.
Oh my goodness.
And we immediately meet the new target family. This is Mother Christine and her son Andy. And oh look, he's in a wheelchair. It's not taken him long to cement this, as there's an Easter dance. Keith has turned up still in costume, but for some reason, Christine is keen.
Cut it out.
So it's just you and your son?
But hang on, who's this? It's Mark, Christine's ex. He wants her back and it looks like he's ruined everything. But no, sometime later, Keith's round at Christine's for a date. Something tells me Andy is going to cause a problem for Keith later on down the line. Maybe Mark too, because he's watching through the window and he even turns up to the school trying to get Christine back.
We could be the perfect family.
Mark, please, just let go.
Now, I think at this point we're supposed to suspect that it's actually Mark who's the stepfather, but it's too obvious and no plastic surgeon is going to make someone bald on purpose.
Exactly.
So let's just drop that. It's the weekend now, and Keith and Christine are on a date. Keith asks how Andy ended up in a wheelchair. She explains that when her and her husband told him they were getting a divorce, he was so upset he ran out of the house into the road and got hit by a car.
Oh, I see.
Ridiculous. Apparently, all the doctors think that he should be able to walk.
They think it's psychosomatic or something.
What? Anyway, Mark has followed Keith home and confronts him over Christine.
Look, pal, I think it's time you and I had a man-to-man talk about a certain lady by the name of Christine. I think you should know that I've been seeing her for the last 3 months. Find your own family.
It doesn't go well at all for Mark, so Keith buries him in the garden while whistling his favourite song. Next day at church, Andy is telling Father Brennan, who's apparently his best friend,
What?
that he's not sure about Keith. That night, Keith rushes Andy into bed so him and his mum can bang.
Boys will be boys.
But Andy has wheeled himself into the room and killed the mood.
You know, just last month I found him trying to use his computer to access local police records on an unsolved murder case for the last 20 years.
Uh-oh, that sounds like it may crop up later. What? They're already married. Andy's not too happy. Well, he's obviously not happy. He's confined to a wheelchair, but he'd also rather they weren't married. Keith can't seem to stick to a story. He's told people he's from Charleston, and now he's saying Louisville.
I thought you said you were from Charleston.
So Andy thinks something's up.
I told Mom she should have waited.
So while Keith and Christine are on their honeymoon, Andy has hacked into the South Carolina and Kentucky DMVs, runs a search on Keith, and has a list of phone numbers to call. He asks Father Brennan to help him out, and he says he'll see what he can do.
I want to find out who my stepfather really is. 2
weeks later, Keith tries to play football with Andy, and he falls out of his chair. Keith has had just about enough of Andy just sitting in his chair all the time.
Just get up off the ground and walk.
And tells him it's about time he got off his ass.
That's gotta hurt.
So Andy tells his real dad, Steve, that he wants to come and stay with him for the summer, but Keith's not having any of it.
I am your daddy now.
He's my real daddy. I want to be with him.
This has sent Keith mad, and Andy sees.
Oh, dear.
When Keith is at work, this woman and her kid come round to say they'd like to see his cottage. As he's moved in with Christine, he doesn't need the cottage anymore. This woman, Jennifer, isn't too bad. Her husband died a year ago, and her son, Nicky, can walk, so Keith is considering trading up. Andy is off to his dad's now, and Keith is still pissed off, so he starts spending more and more time with Jennifer and Nicky. What's Father Brennan doing here? Apparently he's just come to say hello and invite his new neighbours to Mass on Sunday. So Keith makes excuses and leaves. Now that Andy's gone, Keith has decided he wants a baby of his own, but Christine is incapable.
All I want is a family! Daddy needs a family!
Okay.
At Andy's dad's house, Andy is watching Crime Search USA and sees a report on the family serial killer.
So named because he seeks out and marries single mothers with one child.
And thinks he's made a connection. Keith is now fully involved with Jennifer and comes home late to Christine. Christine says that because they've been married for 6 weeks now and things aren't going well, she's made an appointment for them to speak to Father Brennan. Why? Don't know. Keith's boss, Mr. Thompson, has caught him cheating on his wife with Jennifer, so Keith deals with him. Back at Andy's dad's, Crime Search USA is back on, and the police now know that the family serial killer has changed his appearance, as they've found the backstreet surgeon murdered. The report says to look out for scars behind the ears on any suspects, and Andy has already seen those on Keith. Jennifer, who doesn't know Keith is married, has asked him to marry her. He agrees in principle, says if it's going to happen, they need to leave Deerview.
Maybe he's trying to hide something.
He's on his way home to finish Christine, but when he gets there, he finds out that Andy is back. So they're a family again, and no further action is needed. Oh dear, Jennifer is enrolling Nikki at the school where Christine teaches. Keith comes by to give Christine a plant, but he sees Jennifer and Nikki there and runs off. When Christine finds out where they live, she starts putting two and two together. Andy is on his computer now. He has a photo of the family serial killer and a photo of Keith, and is using some sort of RGB technology to see if they match. How can this possibly work? Andy is a child. He has a computer from the early 90s, and they're two totally separate actors. Anyway, Keith has had full facial reconstructive surgery. He hasn't just painted his face red, green or blue to avoid detection. Keith has seen what Andy's up to, and because the police have the family serial killer's fingerprints, all they need to do is get Keith's, and they could find out for certain. Father Brennan agrees to help. So Andy has invited Father Brennan for dinner tonight, and I assume this is where they're going to try and get the fingerprints. They manage to grab his fork, and they think they've got the evidence they need, but Keith makes an excuse to leave just after Father Brennan, runs him off the road and finishes him. True to form, he makes it look like an accident. Jennifer comes to Keith's work the next day and says, "Look, are you going to marry me or not?" He says he needs more time, but she says time's up. He's about to deal with her, but can't because there are customers watching. Back at home, Keith tells Andy that Father Brennan has died in a car accident.
Isn't that terrible?
He tells him to get off the computer and start behaving like a normal boy. Then he dismantles his computer and takes it away. It's Father Brennan's funeral today, and Andy, a child, is making the speech.
I love you, Father Brennan.
Do me a favour.
Jennifer turns up to the funeral and Keith quickly leaves. Christine notices this and approaches Jennifer to ask her about Keith, but they decide now isn't the time.
I don't understand.
So Christine is going round to Jennifer's at 8 this evening. That means Keith has the rest of the day to wipe out at least one of the two families. Yep, he's chosen Jennifer. He tells her to meet him at the nursery, where he tells her he already has a family, kicks her head in and throws her in the wood chipper. But hang on, Christine and Andy have arrived. Christine doesn't believe he's the family serial killer yet, but does think that he's shagging Jennifer, so she goes in there.
What a pleasant surprise.
Where is she? Oh my God.
So she knows everything now, and Keith is attacking her. Andy, who's waiting in the car as instructed, has found the fork that Father Brennan drove away with the night that he died, and it's covered in blood. So he gets his chair out of the back and rolls up to the nursery. The wood chipper is back on, and Andy sees his mum and Jennifer being piled up on the conveyor belt. But Andy's in a wheelchair. What can he do? Oh right, he's up. And he seems to have made a full recovery. He wheels his chair into Keith, causing him to fall, drop Christine and hit his head. Keith doesn't go down easily and chases Andy around the plants. He can't find Andy, so he gets a ladder to get a better look. But Andy pushes the ladder down and Keith goes straight into the wood chipper. But he's not got in yet and manages to grab hold of Andy. It's okay though. Christine comes to, grabs Andy and screams so loud that he has to let go. And that's it now. That's the end of the family serial killer. Nobody survives that. I can tell you now that this is the end of the entire saga, as there hasn't been a sequel for over 30 years, although there has been a 2009 remake of the original. I'm a bit stepfathered out at the moment, but I may come on to that later. So until next time. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe and check out this other video. Thank you.